I stretch forth my hand, knowing not what I shall touch. A tender spot, an open wound, warmth, pulsing life, fragile blossoms, a rock, ice. I am tentative, trembling, wishing to avoid hurt, wanting to link my life with life. Lonely, I desire companions. Naked, I long for defenders. Lost, I want to find, to be found. Will I touch strangers or enemies or nothing? My hand is withdrawn, but still it touches my vulnerable skin, my furrowed brow, my empty pocket, my full heart. Do others reach, tremble, withdraw? Do they desire, long, seek? Are they lonely, fearful, lost? Will they grasp a tentative, trembling hand? I stretch forth my hand, knowing not what I shall touch, but hoping. There is so much going on. You know, on our Zoom calendar, there are something like 35 meetings already scheduled and more arising. If you're not already on our parish biz list, you should be. We will make sure that a full schedule goes out on the parish biz list. But what I see is that there seems to be an OWL class that is happening here today at 3:30. Tomorrow, there is a small group meeting with Corinne at 6:30. Also on Tuesday, there is a lyceum with Brad Connor about Beethoven, and that will begin at 6:30, and you may want to check that one out. Our junior youth group is meeting on Wednesday. There's drop-in with Deb on Thursday. There is the choir community check-in on Thursday, and there is so much going on. Today, as Annie or Deb may say, we are doing some more experimenting so that a little later in this service, we are going to attempt to move us into breakout groups so we can have some more intimate conversation with one another. By the way, next Sunday, our current schedule calls for us to have as our guest Mary Margaret Earle, the Executive Director of the UU Urban Ministry. And she'll no doubt do something revised from the sermon she had originally intended, but we hope to have her join us. And guess what? We're also going to be welcoming new members next Sunday, and that should be an adventure. And there is as well a parsonage open house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, there are people who have been around this congregation forever who have never ever seen the inside of the parsonage. And this will be your great opportunity to join in a virtual tour. And Sue Baldoff may actually stay around for that. Usually she finds a movie she can go to when there's a parsonage open house, but she may be there as well. I can't promise that for sure. Let's see, what else have we got going here? I think that's enough. There may be other announcements that will occur to us along the way, but it's been suggested that we might want to stand for our unison affirmation. So let's try that. Stand for our unison affirmation. And together, love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. So be it.
And now we have a video puppet show from our own Sharon McDonald that I will share with us.
My name is Sharon McDonald, and I love to do puppet shows. They're easy to do. All you need is a couple of chairs and a tablecloth and some puppets. Once upon a time, there was a little bear who, as bears do, slept through the winter and then, in the spring, woke up and looked around, and everything was different. Schools were closed, church was closed, everybody was washing their hands over and over again. "What's going on?" said the little bear. "It's coronavirus. Coronavirus." "Yeah. What does that mean to me?" said the little bear. "Well, actually, I have some friends on Zoom who'd like to come and tell you what it means to them. Okay? Okay." You know me. I like to play the piano in church all the time. I've been taking piano lessons for 2 years. And I go to see my piano teacher every week. But now with the coronavirus, I can't go to see her. My parents have found a website where I can learn remotely. But what's going to happen to my piano teacher? Hello. My parents are working from home, so I have to play with my little brother. We like to watch the doodle show in the middle of the day, and then we take our chalk and go out and draw doodles on the sidewalk. We hope that people walking down the street will see them and laugh. It's fun to play doodles, but it's nice to make people laugh in the middle of the coronavirus. We're going out. We're going out to rollerblade, to bicycle, to jump on our trampolines, but no play dates. We wish you could come. We wish you could come. I'm so depressed. I miss the days when I could go and see my friends. Oh, I'm so lonely. And next week is my birthday. What am I gonna do? I think I'll go and call a friend right now. It's my job to walk the dog. I walk the dog 2, maybe 3, maybe 10 times every day. And in my neighborhood, there's a game we play. People draw pictures and put them in the windows, and then when you walk down the street, you try to find the pictures and wave at people who are standing in the windows. Last week it was shamrocks, and this week it's rainbows. It's nice to have a bright surprise in a coronavirus time. So that's what you've woken up to, Bear. Bear, all you have to do is remember we're all in this together and we need to take care of each other.
This has been a McDonald production.
Thank you, Sharon. That was wonderful. And again, apologies for the lag in the video. That was on my end. The video that she sent me was not like that. We'll get it out to you. All right. So now we have an impact moment from our own youth, Olivia Evans, who I'm going to be looking for in, and I think I found her. Here we go.
Hi, so First Parish Bedford, I definitely try to go when I can. I try to get involved. I try to help out because I've found a community. I've certainly found friends, and I've definitely found a family. When I moved here in 2011, I was in the position of it being more of an obligation to have to go to RE and services, but the more I went and the more people I met in the church, it became more of a choice and more of a wanting to go. In fact, for the past 3 years, I've asked my mom that on my 16th birthday, I want to go to church and I want to sign the membership book. But unfortunately, I relate to the Sharon McDonald's Peacock because COVID-19 is taking over my birthday this year as well. So that's not really a gift that I'm going to be getting so far. But so not only have I found a second home and a second family, but I found myself being given these opportunities for learning, for exploring, and definitely for experience. Those opportunities that have and will be given to me is something that has impacted me the most. Through those opportunities, I've met people in our church, I've gotten to know them, I've made connections outside of church, and I know I'm listing so many things, but I could honestly go on forever. My list would be never ending, and I've only been here for 7 or 8 years, so I'm definitely excited to see what another 2 years would look like. So the religious education at church is another thing that has impacted my life. I've been through the majority of RE classes, 3rd grade and up, and each class has helped in some sort of way. For example, coming of age, which I know majority of the youth will go through, it made me find a group of friends that feels like we could be bonded forever, that nothing can get in our way. We're just kind of so connected. And it helped with finding out characteristics and traits that I didn't know existed. And it helped me develop who I am as a person and kind of make that connection with everyone else. Lastly, church has given me a platform to express myself. So whether it's doing makeup for acting in the haunted house or traveling to New York and meeting new people participating in the UU conference, which actually has motivated me to spread the word and start helping with all of these issues that are being brought up. And so I am so grateful for the countless experiences that have been given. Church has definitely left an impact on my life, and I hope that everyone stays happy and healthy.
Thank you so much, Liv. That is such a testimony to what we do here together. I'm going to share a body prayer that you can participate in from home if you are able. Now more than ever, we need spiritual practices that involve our bodies. I've led body prayers at church a couple times, and this one will be similar and different. I invite you to do the movements at home. If you have the space and the ability, I would encourage you to stand, but you can also do them while seated because they mostly involve our arms. The first posture is help, because we all feel like we could use some help right now. Not because anyone or any God is coming to save us, but because we're in need. The second posture is connect, because we all know that that is so important. And I see it happening in so many beautiful ways all the time, even though physical distance keeps us apart. The third posture is comfort, because these times are hard and we need to take care of ourselves. The last posture is love, because we need to put love out into this world. We're all struggling with the same issues. we'll go through the postures twice more, the first time with words and the second time in silence. Help. Connect. Comfort. Love. Amen.
I think I'm introducing the offering. Is that correct? Good. One day last week, I was across the street at Ken's getting takeout, and who should I see but our parishioner Linda Politz, who was stocking up on enough takeout for lunch as well as dinner for her family. And she paid for it, and then she put a ridiculous amount of money into the tip jar. She was exceedingly generous. And she turned to me and she said, you know, actually, I learned this from you because in one of your sermons, you said, I would never regret being generous. Well, the truth is, I don't remember ever having said that, but I'm glad that's what Linda remembered of my preaching, because I do believe that we will never regret being generous. You know, there are other ways of giving. As I said last week, we are working on our electronic giving, and there may be instructions that will come up about that. But if you go to our homepage, we're trying to simplify the electronic giving opportunities. And indeed, a number of you made use of that last week, and we hope that you will continue to do so. And again, as last week, I remind you that there are, this is called an envelope, and it is made out to First Parish at 75 The Great Road in Bedford, and these things are called postage stamps. But you know, you don't even need a postage stamp, because if you are out and about on one of your walks, you can walk past our Elm Street entrance, and there's a mail slot just to the left of the door of the Elm Street entrance, and you can push something in there. And it does help us to stay strong fiscally in these difficult times. So as you are able, I know that you will indeed be as generous as possible. Freely we have received, freely give, for the good work of this congregation within and far, far beyond these walls. Our offering will now be received. Hit it, Steve. Thank you, Steve. It is comforting for you to be with us again today in this way. Thank you so much. There's a reading I will share with you. As it says, it's from Ira Byock, The Best Care Possible. In it, Ira Byock writes, anthropologist Margaret Mead was asked by a student what she considered to be the first sign of civilization in a culture. The student expected Mead to talk about fish hooks or clay pots or grinding stones. But Mead said that the first sign of civilization in an ancient culture was a femur, a thigh bone that had been broken and then healed. Mead explained that in the animal kingdom, if you break your leg, you die. You cannot run from danger, get to the river for a drink, or hunt for food. You are meat for prowling beasts. No animal survives a broken leg long enough for the bone to heal. A broken femur that has healed is evidence that someone has taken time to stay with the one who fell, has bound up the wound, has carried the person to safety, and has tended the person through recovery. Helping someone else through difficulty is where civilization starts, Mead says. I chose this reading and didn't even remember that I have a personal story that goes with this, and that is that I broke my femur when I was 3 years old. Indeed, on my 3rd birthday, I was running and jumping in the backyard into one of those inflatable swimming pools, and I hit it wrong and I broke my femur. And, you know, I'm really quite glad that my parents didn't just leave me out there in the backyard. But instead, I went into the hospital, and in those days at least, my left leg was put in a full cast from hip to ankle. And my friends would write on the cast. But I was also put into traction. Traction in those days meant having your leg raised all the way up, and in full cast, I was in traction for, I believe, 6 weeks. I was suspended, my leg was suspended, and so here we too are suspended. And the way we get through this is by caring for one another. And there are just so many examples abounding. One more thing about my breaking my leg. Again, it was on my 3rd birthday, and there are actually photographs of me in the hospital bed with my leg in the air and a birthday cake on my stomach and tears rolling down my cheek. And sometime in the course of this week, there was something that was both absurd and tragic happening at the same time. And Annie taught me the acronym LOLSOB, laughing out loud and sobbing at the same time. And there are so many examples of our laughing out loud and sobbing at the same time. One of the sweetest moments in this last week was our junior youth group meeting on Zoom. Annie and Deb were there, and 12 kids were there, and the atmosphere was really quite similar as to what it would be had we been meeting in person. Everybody was having an outrageous good time, but what was especially fun is that we were joined by one pet rat, we were joined by one guinea pig, and I think that there were 2 cats there as well. And it was yet another example of our caring for one another despite adversity. I look out the church windows, and what do I see? I see people walking up and down the walkways. I see a family picnicking on a warm day on the common. I see father and son playing football on the common. We are doing our best to maintain ourselves, and isn't it remarkable? Isn't it remarkable when we are reduced to doing the essential things and not doing the non-essential things? Might this be a time for imagination of what life could be like, what we hope life may be like when we get through this period? What would it be like? Imagine a nation with health care for all. Imagine a government that is trustworthy and most attentive to the needs of those who are most vulnerable, and to everyone. What would it be like for us to be united? Again, I am reminded of Maria being in sanctuary, and now all of us being in sanctuary. And this week, when we suspended our program of volunteers in sanctuary, others have reached out to make sure there is food and care for Maria and her family. I received a phone call from Heidi Porter, the director of health in Bedford, and she wanted us to be sure that Maria had access to the food that is being distributed by the town. And indeed, we are pulling together. There are so many stories of our keeping faith with the fallen, so that we're not just left out in the backyard with a broken leg, but that we heal and endure and persevere. And what we're going to do now is hear a couple of vignettes about this sort of thing. First from Deb and then from Annie. Again, it's good to be together, folks.
When I was a little girl going to get a polio shot, yep, it was that long ago, I can remember going into the doctor's office. He pulled out a really long needle, scary like anything. It looked like it was about that long to me. I don't think it really was. And I remember begging and imploring him to please, please let me have that shot under my mommy's coat. I was convinced that if that happened, it would not hurt so very much. My mom would make it better for me. Of course, that was not the deal, and I had to get the shot bare-armed, and I cried a lot. I remember this. I was probably 3 years old. Forward to another time, I, like some of you, have gone to Star Island since I was an infant. It is a place that you too may know well, off of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, part of the Isles of Shoals. And it was and still is my special place, a place apart from the rest of the world, a place of stark beauty, of quiet discovery, of peace, and of safety. When I was working at the Unitarian Universalist Association, the attacks of September 11th occurred. It was a horrifying experience for all of us. And as I worked from home because the UUA headquarters had been evacuated, I started to think about whether we could get to Star Island. I was convinced that if we could just get a boat to Star, and I knew lobstermen who could take me there, it would be okay. Whatever would go on in Boston wouldn't reach us and we would be safe. Well, now, here we are, maybe not feeling so safe. Although I don't know about you, there is a certain safety in being in a home. On the other hand, the threat out there isn't a long, scary needle that you can see or an attack from the air that can be heard and witnessed. This is different. This feels silent, invisible, of unknown duration, and it surely is that. And I think that is part of what makes this a different kind of challenge. I can do almost anything if I know it won't go on forever. I don't think that this COVID-19 thing will go on forever, but it might go on for a long time, longer than we can easily think about right now, and surely longer than any of us would hope. But spring is coming. In fact, it has officially arrived. I can see pussy willows budding outside of my window. The days are getting longer. The trees are starting to turn red. It may snow a little tomorrow, that's true, but the sun will warm the earth and it will not last. We can go outside if we are mindful of where we go and how close we are to others. This past Friday, I joined people singing outside on the street, a safe distance away from each other, but it was wonderful. And Passover and Easter are coming soon too, other signs of renewal and survival. So our story, I pray, will go on, rewritten with new sidelines and curves along the way, but perhaps with an ending that brings us safely to the other side. Hope surely lives. Amen.
Amen. So when I first started getting involved with supporting some of our community members who were in the ICE immigration custody in the Suffolk County House of Corrections, I learned about a term called secondary trauma. And secondary trauma is a term for when you're in close proximity to people who are experiencing or have experienced and are telling you about traumatic, difficult experiences. And so I spent years, the next couple years, thinking a lot about secondary trauma. How do I manage it? How do I handle it well so that I can be well as I absorb so much pain from this work? And I bet many of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. People who are parents who support people going through trauma, people who are social workers, teachers, and all kinds of people who help others get through traumatic and difficult situations. But at the last in-person gathering we had for our core group of organizers with the Boston Immigration Justice Accompaniment Network before coronavirus made that impossible, I learned about a new term called secondary resilience. And secondary resilience is about absorbing not just the trauma, but absorbing the resilience in folks that we are working with. Because yes, the grief and the pain and the fear and the rage come into our bodies when we are accompanying people through horrible circumstances. But so does the love and the strength and the care when we can see others who are making it through. I think many of us who are involved with the sanctuary program at our church can imagine what I'm talking about. I think we get a lot of secondary resilience by interacting with our guest. Well, yesterday I had a chance to get some secondary resilience in these times. A couple days ago, 51 courageous men who are being held in immigration jail in Bristol County, right here in Massachusetts, were able to get a letter out via a lawyer about the horrible conditions they are facing in these times without any ability to do safe social distancing, crowded into bunks that are 3 feet apart, without hand sanitizer or proper hygiene, and feeling scared. Yesterday, I spoke to one of these men on the phone, and he told me that part of the biggest problem was how much they didn't know and how much they weren't told. He said, well, there was the correctional officer with symptoms, and he never came back, and we don't know if he tested positive or was tested at all, or if he just had the flu, but we are kept in the dark. And panic and anxiety in a group of people locked up in one storage room is not what you want. This can have tremendous repercussions. But instead of going into a place of fighting each other, of panicking, they were able to organize and write a letter and get 51 out of the 57 people in their unit to sign it with their names, which when you're in jail and you do that, that can have huge impacts on how you're treated. It's risky. And they did it anyway because they were saying, we're together. And the fact that they are courageous in the face of these circumstances, which are so much worse than anything that I have to go through in this time, makes me more resilient. It gives me hope, and it reminds me to turn away from panic and anxiety into being strong together. One way that we are encouraging folks in this time to be in solidarity with these 51 men in Bristol County Jail is through a virtual vigil. And I will share that information in the chat and on the announcements list if you would like to participate in some of this secondary resilience and in spreading the news about their plight, because this is the thing they have asked for most, is that we amplify their message and get their demands out there so that we can get the folks out of that situation and out into their communities where they can be safe.
Closing words. I think it was on Friday, I got a call from Janet Powers. Her husband, Chris Iannone, has been the one who winds our steeple clock. And Janet and Chris were wondering if having a wound clock could be considered an essential service. And we agreed that, yes, it is an essential service, that the clock be wound. And so Chris went to wind the steeple clock. And that immediately reminded me of something that was written by the author E.B. White. And this is prefaced by saying that in March of 1973, E.B. White wrote the following perfectly formed reply to a Mr. Nadeau who sought White's opinion on what he saw as a bleak future for the human race. You know, I'm not sure what the bleak future was in 1973. It must have been Richard Nixon. Those seem like the good old days to me, but nonetheless, Mr. Nadeau was concerned. And so on the 30th of March in 1973, E.B. White wrote this: "Dear Mr. Nadeau, as long as there is one upright man, as long as there is one compassionate woman, the contagion may spread and the scene is not desolate. Hope is the thing that is left to us in a bad time. I shall get up Sunday morning and wind the clock as a contribution to order and steadfastness. Sailors have an expression about the weather. They say, the weather is a great bluffer. I guess the same is true of our human society. Things can look dark, then a break shows in the clouds and all is changed, sometimes rather suddenly. It is quite obvious that the human race has made a queer mess of life on this planet. But as a people, we probably harbor seeds of goodness that have lain for a long time, waiting to sprout when the conditions are right. Human curiosity, our relentlessness, our inventiveness, our ingenuity have led us into deep trouble. We can only hope that these same traits will enable us to claw our way out." He concludes by saying, "Hang on to your hat, hang on to your hope, and wind the clock, for tomorrow is another day. Sincerely, E.B. White." So be it. Hang on to your hat, hang on to your hope, and wind that clock, for tomorrow is another day. I love you, everybody. Good to be together. Bye for now. We're going to go into community hour, right, Annie?
Do we have a postlude with Steve?
Oh, we do.
I will unmute him.
Hit it.